7:05, call the meeting of the Jamaica Selectboard to order. On the agenda for this evening, the first order of business is to approve the minutes for the March 14th, March 28th, and April 4th, 2016 Select Board meetings. Since there were 3 sets of minutes and there were some extensive adjustments, we're going to divide and conquer. Lexa, are you doing the 14th?
I'm doing the 14th.
Okay, if you'd be kind enough to do the 14th.
Okay, on the public present, we skipped Julie Lowe. It's Chris and Julie Lowe,
Did I give you my copy? I bet I did.
probably.
Yeah.
It ain't Julie Lloyd,
Yes, it's Chris and Julie Lowe. Because you just have Chris, you don't have Julie.
Yeah, you've got my copy. 14th? 14th.
And then number 2, rescue ends. It should be Inc. INC, not INS.
That's nice.
And number 9, Mr. Bruso moved to accept the contract for the reappraisal of property. So add to accept the contract. And number 10, last sentence, they instead of the. Number 13, instead of the, Mr. Bruso moved to sign. And number 15, we should add that no action was taken on surveying the cemeteries. And also what was left out, that I stated that the names for the town highway garage were supposed to be submitted by March 24th with the town clerk. And that needs to be added in.
Where was that last one?
It was that I stated that on March 24th, 2016, the names of the folks that wanted to be on the Town Highway Garage Committee, that was the date that the names were supposed to be into the town clerk's office. And that's all I have on the 14th.
All right, thank you. Let's, do we need to approve each one separately? Can we do them all
Yes,
in one?
we should do them
All
separately.
right, all in favor of accepting the minutes as amended for March the 14th? All say aye.
Aye.
Any no, nays? I hear none. Any discussion? Hearing none. That motion is passed. And Lou, could you address the March 28th minutes?
Yeah, the item number 13 should say a joint meeting with the Planning Commission was set for Monday, the 18th of April, to discuss draft changes to the flood hazard regulations, which will include a presentation by the state flood zone administrator. On number 6, I would change the word given to be consistent. I would use the word presented. Ms. Lowe presented the petition, and then she was told that it needed to be presented to the town clerk. I don't know if there's anything else, Paul, that you saw in those minutes.
You've got my copy, so I'm taking it.
I don't have that with me.
Oh, all right. Whatever you do, it's fine.
But those are the things that I.
Is the one in number 6, is that a matter of style rather than grammar?
Yeah, the word presented and given mean the same thing, but I think for consistency, I just thought it would be better to use the same word.
You're talking yourself out of a clerk, guys. I'll tell you that right now.
How so?
This minute stuff is bullshit. And if that's the way you want them, find somebody else to do it.
Well, I think the changes I suggested for number 13 really reflect what's happening.
Oh, yeah, I understand that. But overall, this is ridiculous.
I have one on number 8, if you're willing to listen. It says, Ms. Clark moved to open negotiations with Coyne Design for architectural designs for the garage. Mr. Bruso seconded the motion. Dr. Flower questioned why this wasn't done with 3 RFPs, requests for formal proposals for bids. It says that Mr. Coyne had already prepared a response in citing board minutes from 2012 allowing such an action. All I had was the procurement policy. That wasn't off board minutes, that was just a part of the procurement policy that I had in case there was that question. It seems that the way it's worded to me, it seems that I had a response made from some other minutes. This just came out of a policy that had already existed. So I would just say that I cited the exception out of the procurement policy.
Weren't they voted on though at some point?
The procurement policy was voted on, that's
Yeah.
correct. But it was the,
When was that voted on?
it was the procurement policy which is important in this discussion, not the fact that it was something in the select board minutes. So I think that's what Andy's getting at.
I just wanted that it came off the policy, not off something that was passed in the minutes. I mean, at one time it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, I would think that would have
The
to be.
procurement policy would have been passed, right?
Right. Do you
But it
know
was-
when that was? When that
Yes,
was?
It's 2000.
this policy is hereby adopted by the Select Board of the Town of Jamaica, September 24th, 2012.
Okay, that's what I thought, it did have a date on it,
Yes.
because.
That was when the policy was adopted,
Yeah, right.
And that wasn't the only
but
thing.
that's not what he was
That
referring, he
was the
wasn't
whole
referring.
policy.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, I didn't argue about that when you gave it to me.
Yeah, but I think what Andy's suggesting is the word procurement policy as opposed to citing the select board minutes of 2012.
Or had an already prepared response to
Well, I
the
think
citing
that,
board minutes.
I did feel that, Andy.
Well, I was prepared.
Yes, that you were prepared for me to have said something.
No, not, it couldn't have been, it could have been from anyone.
I know it could have
I
been.
knew somebody was gonna ask,
Yeah,
but what,
and it was highlighted and everything, so, you know, you were ready.
That's a biased opinion from whoever wanted that in the minutes. That's not how I presented it. I just read something off the procurement policy.
All right, so what's on the table then is an amendment to the sentence, basically saying that instead of the minutes, the procurement policy. Is that correct?
I would suggest maybe the word something like, Mr. Coyne cited the procurement policy allowing such an action. Does that make sense?
That'd be all right with me.
Okay, sounds good to me. Are there any other additions, deletions, or corrections on those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor to pass them as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody saying no? Hearing none, discussion, hearing none, they have, those corrections will be added. And I have some from, these are the minutes,
How come I didn't get one?
there's only 3.
No,
I didn't either.
actually, 1, 2, 3, 4.
He didn't get one either.
Wait, you, oh, okay, well.
There's 3. And to answer your question, each of them had specific things that they felt were missing.
Uh-huh.
And so I gave that to them because I had something specific in mind. And it wasn't a case of overlooking anybody, it's just a case of making it easier for me.
Okay.
And I'm gonna ask you a question because on the special meeting for Monday the 4th, there's a T, it should be a Y, but that's a minor thing. Number 3 says, Dr. Flower questioned the chair's statement that the architect we have been working with isn't the only one out there. I can't remember what that was all about. Is that
Yeah,
reflected in your number?
yes, that,
Number 3.
basically what I was saying was when I had to go through having the well done, I had to have 3 RFPs.
Yeah,
And I was questioning why that was not the case with the architect.
and you reflected back to the procurement policy.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't understand what this particular sentence was, but I
do.
Huh? I don't
I
know.
understand the question.
Question the chair's statement, that, I made a statement that the
Yeah.
architect we work with isn't the only one out there. Well, he isn't the only one, that's correct.
Mhm.
There's other architects, I don't understand. At any rate, we'll let that one go, I don't understand it, but that's okay.
I guess, is it, I guess I'm trying to read that statement, I'm not making sense of it. Dr. Flower questioned the chair's statement. Did the chair make the statement that that there's only one, that there is more than one out there?
What I remember, well, I should ask the chair now.
I don't recall saying that, but I.
No, you weren't here. Oh, yes, you were.
In this case, I was, yeah.
You were.
Because it sounds like the chair stated that we have been working, that the architect we've been working with isn't the only one out there. I think that was your statement.
Yes, well, what had happened was you had said that we are working with Watson, I can't remember.
Oh, Cotton.
Cotton.
Mhm.
And then I said, I have a question about that.
Mhm.
But that was the one that you had mentioned only.
Exactly, he's the only one I've mentioned.
Yes,
that one.
and my question was, there are others out there, why are we not having 3 RFPs? And actually, people in the audience picked up on that also.
Right.
I guess
That
that's fine, I'm
reflects-
just trying to reflect what the minutes said. And it sounds to me, the way the minutes read is that the chair made the statement that we have been working with, that the architect we've been working with isn't the only one out there. And I think that was your statement as opposed to the chair's.
Dr. Flower questioned the chairs.
The chair's statement that,
Well,
what was the chair's statement?
the chair's statement was that we were working with Cotton.
Okay, so that's the way it should read, something like that.
So you
The
should read
chair's
that.
statement that we have been working with Cotton,
Right.
and she
And that,
commented that that the architect we've been working with isn't the only one out there, because that reflects the fact that you made that statement as opposed to the chair.
Okay. Sure. And I think that clears it up.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think, Judy, hopefully I'm not out of order going back to the Monday, the 28th minutes. You did mention that there were people in the public that had agreed with that statement. That was a different meeting.
and
And it
they
names who the
also,
people are
yeah.
on number,
Okay, so
but that's what we've already proved, those minutes.
Yeah.
where we are right now is we understand that what I was saying to you made it sound like there was only one.
Right,
So, in fact, there were more, and that's what you were asking.
right. Why is it when I had to do it for the well, that we don't have to do that for $750,000?
Understand.
Can I say,
But we are going to, when it comes to the portion of that project that requires compliance with that portion of our purchasing policy, we will most certainly do that.
Paul,
Yes, ma'am.
just to go back to the well, just to clarify something, you have to get the 3 RFPs for the construction of the well, which is different from architectural and engineering. Your engineer that you used was Bell Engineering. We didn't do 3 RFPs to hire Bell Engineering for the well.
No, we didn't use, oh, yeah.
We hired
That's
him,
right.
and that's it, we didn't do any
Yes.
RFPs, so I just want to clarify that you
Yes.
didn't have to
You're
do
right
that.
about that.
Okay.
Okay, continuing on, this is the minutes of Monday, the 4th of April, 2016. There's a section that was left out that I typed it out, I'm going to read it just so it was in the record, and I'll give you this so you don't have to.
Now, what's this about again?
This is some stuff that was absent from these minutes.
Okay, and which one are we looking at?
We're looking at minutes for the 4th. They're not reflected on there because they're omitted. So in addition to the instructing people present to introduce themselves as we spoke, excuse me, my throat's run out already today. The other thing the chair did two other things. The chair described, and I'm reading this now, and I'll give this to you. The chair described the scope of the new garage planning committee. The committee will listen, and then goes on, the committee will listen to input from the community, explain what has already been accomplished, keep the community informed regarding the process and progress, bring comments and suggestions from the community to the select board for action. The chair then described the history of the project from the summer of 2014 to date. About the location, the select board has looked throughout Jamaica for suitable property that we can afford. We expect the cost to be at least $150,000. If anyone wishes to donate property, please let us know. The floodplain issue has been researched and engineered by Dept Engineering. The adjacent property owners have been contacted and are cooperating. Regarding the plans, Cotton Belaski Architects have been very helpful and generous with their time in helping us to formulate our early plans, and we have looked at examples of their previous work for other towns to get ideas. It seemed to the select board that modifying existing plans would be far more cost effective than starting from scratch. That was the initial statement I made at the beginning of the session, and that was submitted from here, so we caught this back up. The only other thing, someone added on this sheet, I'm not sure who did it, but they're correct. Number 10, the chair said the committee will set up its own meetings. Someone suggested it should be own meeting dates. I don't recognize the writing, but they're correct. Any
So
questions
what
about
you were,
those things?
what you were reading, what number are you asking that to be?
It should be, let's call it 2.5.
Okay, so
It should be
between 2 and 3.
Mhm.
Between 2 and 3.
And you wanted that whole statement that you just,
Yes, I want reflected in the minutes. the-
okay,
the
you're a
discussions.
stenographer and not a clerk, and I am quitting right now. Call me.
Well, it's hard to put all that stuff in.
That's why I prepared this slide into it, so you wouldn't have to be, and I've mentioned this twice, that this is what needs to go in the minutes. And I'll state, as I said last time, I want the minutes to reflect the conversations and the discussions, not only the motions. Like
So we're not a clerk now, so.
Hold on a sec. Get some paper.
We can transcribe the minutes if we need to.
I'll, just.
Okay, thank you.
I think what Ed said is true, that really you do.
Let the
need
minutes
some,
reflect that the person who's been the clerk for longer than any of you have been on the board quits.
Well, thank you for serving for so long.
Yeah, right.
Really, you need a stenographer. I don't think if you were taking minutes, you would have been able to write all of it down when you were speaking.
You know, that's why I wrote it
I
down.
think we
so
need to
wouldn't
suspend
have
this meeting temporarily until the rest of the board gets back in here. But can we take a break?
I would entertain a motion for a 10-minute break.
So move.
So moved.
Okay,
Seconded, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none, we're suspended until, what does that clock say? Until 7:30, close enough. Uh, 7:25, Jamaica Select Board reconvenes after a brief break. Records should show that Lexa will be taking the minutes tonight. We have yet to vote on the April 4th minutes as amended. Are there any questions? Lexa, I'll give this to you,
Okay.
so you'll have it.
I was hoping tonight was going to be calm. It's not.
So I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
I'll move it.
Second?
All in favor?
Is there any discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry, any discussion? Discussion.
I
Yes,
think
sorry.
that if we wanted that to go in, we should have given that to Ed to look at and then asked for it to go in.
Before the meeting started, I showed it to him. I said, I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna read it so it goes on the minutes, but I'm gonna show it. When I didn't want to blindside him, so I handed it to him. I said,
Even sooner than that, no.
well, I didn't see him till they came in, so. But anyway, this reflects my position last select board, that I want everything discussed in the minutes. And that wasn't there, so that's what that was all about. But I certainly did not expect that.
You do need a stenographer.
We can probably get one, we'll find one. All right, moving on.
I
We
know
still
you
haven't voted on this yet.
have one in mind already.
Do we have any further discussion on this?
No.
Hearing none? Okay. I think we did the vote, no we didn't. All in favor say aye. All opposed?
No.
Any further discussion?
I'm against it too.
You're against it?
Yeah.
You're against the minutes as amended. How would you like to see them amended?
I'm just against it. That's all I gotta say.
Okay.
But it's still pass.
All in favor say aye.
We already did that.
We did that, so we have what?
Oh, that's right.
How many ayes?
Well, we had 2 abstentions, I mean 2 noes
Two noes.
and 2 ayes. In which case, if we have a tie, the chair votes.
Well, Lexa can vote, and you can vote.
Yeah, well, that's it, the 2 and 2.
He has to break the tie.
I'm breaking the tie in favor of these minutes as they've been amended. Okay. On to the rest of the agenda. We, of course, will approve timesheets for town minister's office, this is highway transfer station at the end of the day, so we don't keep you guys all hanging around, and we'll sign the select board orders. If there's no objection, I'm going to move number 5 to number 4, and move number 4 afterwards.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move number 5, which is time for public concerns. We are so glad to see public that we'll just move you right up to as soon as we can. Does someone have something for us? Nothing for us? We have an audience? Yes, sir.
I'm curious about, just what happened just a
Sure.
minute ago. Is that, I haven't been to a lot of meetings, but is it common or whatever that you all like have to spend an entire new meeting going over what you did like the last week?
Not common to go this much time on. We always go over the minutes to make sure there's no little typos. These get through all the
Well, the
time.
first ones are the draft anyway.
The first minutes that get published are drafts, and they have to be published because of, what, 4 days, 5 days?
5 days.
There's a law that we have to publish something right away before we get a chance to actually look at them and act on it. So then we go back and modify them. So the process itself is sound, it just took more time than usual tonight.
Okay, and one other thing I wanted to ask was, I was confused again about the whole bidding thing. You're not gonna really do bids until all these plans and all that are in, is that it, before you start construction?
The project has lots of components to it.
Okay,
One of the components has to do with services as opposed to construction, and that's the architect and engineering. Within our procurement policy, because architecture and engineering and other kinds of services are pretty subjective calls, and sometimes there's more to it than just the product at the end. So the select board has within these minutes, since 2012, the option to select services based on past experiences. We've talked to other agencies, we've worked with them, we know what that's, they know us, they're local, there's lots of factors go into it. Cost is one of them, but it's not the primary one. Then when we get into a construction phase or other kinds of things that have a little bit more objective criteria, then we go into the bidding process and we follow the guidelines of the federal bidding process, which we've become pretty familiar with after 5 years of Irene. But we also use our own judgment in that even though there's a bidding process that produces the lowest bidder, the select board, through its experiences with the bidders, with the projects, can elect to not choose the lowest bidder, for example. So we've got that flexibility, but generally speaking, we've gone with the lowest bidder, I think, with the possible exception of the appraiser. The appraiser, and that involved the subjective calls on the part of the people doing the work about the particular software package that was being used. So there's a lot of factors, but the procurement policy certainly has some guidelines that stem, obviously, from the federal guidelines. But the services are trickier.
the one thing I'm confused about the most is that how did you all arrive at the price of this thing without, it doesn't seem, to at least to me, that there were any actual plans for the thing.
What we've done when we first started talking about this is we started to get a ballpark. Before we came to the town, we wanted to have some idea what we're talking about. So we looked around at a lot of the other projects that have been going on. Cotton's name came up because he built a few of them in other projects, other towns. So we went to look and see what was around and approximately what they paid for approximation of what we wanted. And that's how we came up with the figure. Now, we've already researched the land as best we can, so we don't need to purchase any land, so that helps. There's some other discussions about, fire codes and some other things that have still got to be worked out. But that was just a ballpark that we thought no more than. We can go to the citizens and say, look, this is the most we want to spend here. Can you let us look within that budget? And that's what we were asking for, not to spend $750, but to look within that as a budget. We may end up going over, but right now, we're trying to stay as best we can within that budget, predicated on what we have seen can be done with $500,000 or $600,000, or that has been done with other agencies using in Mr. Cotton's outfit as an example. So that's where we got the money number from. It wasn't like we pulled it out of the hat. Yeah.
And last one was like, what about financing? I mean, how have you decided to finance this thing?
Well, we took a couple. Well, let's you address that.
Well, that was the reason for the vote. The vote was not about building a town garage. The vote was about financing it with a bond. So we would use a municipal bond from the state issues municipal bonds every year. We would use the state's bonding agency to go out to the municipal bond market.
It just seemed like to everything we discussed at the time, the most logical thing for a municipality to do, because there were some advantages to do
Certainly
that.
the money, the interest rate is much
Yeah,
lower.
I guess the other thing a lot of people would like to know too is that, what kind of ramifications that's gonna have on the taxes, like how much each individual in the town's gonna end up having.
Sure. Very early in the process, we produced a document. Do you remember this?
It was a page that we issued that estimated the tax increase per $100,000 evaluation. And I think for every $100,000 your property is valued at, it would raise your taxes $20 per year. We go down slightly over the course of time because the way the bond works is that because you're paying down the bond slowly, your interest is less and less and less every year. But it would start at about $20 per year per $1,000 of valuation.
Per 100,000.
Per 100,000, pardon, yes.
And then you'd estimate what, 20 year, 30 year?
We had two choices. We had 20 or 25, I think. You'd speak
Yeah,
to
we
that.
actually had a 30-year bond choice, but that didn't seem like a good option, so.
And with that, I don't know a lot about finance, but is that also is that variable rate or is that like a set rate?
It's a fixed rate.
Fixed rate. Okay.
Fixed, you said it was variable the last time.
The rate's fixed. The actual
It's
interest
called,
paid decreases because the fixed rate against 750, for example, and then the next year's a fixed rate against the lesser amount. Fixed rate against the lesser amount.
Yeah, but Lou Bruso said 2 meetings ago that actually the initial meeting on Tuesday night that I was here about the bond was specifically that it was a variable rate, and I asked what that rate, the variable was, and you said, well, it's minimal.
when
It's
you were,
somewhere between 3.25 and 3.35, which is obviously not true.
no, what I said was, it wasn't variable, that we don't know what that rate is yet, because that rate depends on what the interest rate yield curve looks like on the day that the bonds are issued. So
it's a fixed rate. It's just we don't know what it's fixed at yet because the bonding process is variable.
And you may also if you look at the sheet, it implies a variable rate because really when you have a 20-year loan, you're taking out, if you're paying it annually, you're taking out a 1-year loan, a 2-year loan, a 3-year loan, and a 20, all over 20 years. So every one of those numbers is based on the yield curve. And short-term money is cheaper than long-term money. So that 1-year loan you're taking out will be lower on the yield curve than
Right,
in the
so a 20-year note is gonna cost us how much?
we don't have those figures with us today.
Well, those are the figures people are gonna wanna know, because that's what makes a difference.
Right, well, we
That's
have
the
those
bottom
figures,
line.
we just don't have them with us at this meeting. We didn't expect to talk about
Head
it.
office of materials.
If you're interested, I'll bring that number, those sheets with me on the Wednesday meeting that we have.
Which would be a good time to throw a quick ad in for your Wednesday.
Okay, that's a good point, yep, that was on my list. I don't know if those of you who were at our last board meeting and hung around for the end, We had set a tentative date for the meeting to be on the 20th of April. Well, when my wife asked me, what day is the garage meeting, I said April 20th. She said, uh-oh, you got a problem, because we have family commitments scheduled for that day. So we rescheduled it for the 13th, which is this coming Wednesday. So
When did this get posted?
just today, because we, it was over the weekend where I found the problem. So I posted the agenda today. I sent an email to all the select board members.
I've been out all day
Okay.
teaching.
Yeah, but I did send a letter to the select board.
And what's the date?
is that?
It'll be the 13th, it'll be this coming Wednesday.
But what is it?
It's our first town garage building committee meeting.
Oh, okay.
That's gonna give you my copy, but I'm so scared.
So please pass the word around. I had it put on Facebook. Those of you, we now have our website is up. So if you go to jamaicavermont.org, the website is now up. There's a thing called announcements, which will have the dates of all our meetings.
Now, is that meeting, is that like open to us, or?
Yes.
It is, okay.
Is that meeting posted on the website?
It's on the website, and it's also been posted at the normal locations in town.
So Paul, other public concerns, quick question, what's going on with West Jamaica Road? It was one lane passable this week in one section, and water was coming over.
Was that the section up by, where the slides coming in?
Yeah,
Yeah. I just had a conversation with the individual who owned the land up at the top today, as a matter of fact. Historically, FEMA wouldn't let us do anything to that slide, because they won't tolerate, they just won't even hear us talk about mitigation for slides, for slopes and things. So we built a wall, we did some tap dancing with the paperwork to put up a wall to protect that road for the longest time, and then that's been overcome, which is why FEMA doesn't want to pay for it, because they know. So I talked to the owners at the top. Years ago when this first came up, they couldn't find anybody to trim where the bank is. There are a lot of trees, which have now fallen over. No one would trim those trees because it was too dangerous. So what we've done today, we've talked about it again, we're going to take another look. We're wondering if perhaps the really dangerous stuff has now collapsed so that we can go back and take another look at it. So Keith and I will be discussing this tomorrow, looking for professional loggers who will take this task on, because it keeps coming down. Keith was talking, and this didn't hear about it today, but many times this year he said it's like plowing soup, because it's coming down off that cliff and it's going across the road into the river, and it's going to continue to do that until we come up with a plan. And the first time we tried to use a plan, it was too dangerous for the loggers to do it. We're going to take another look, because it's eaten itself way back, so it may be more stable now. But Keith and I are going to talk about that for tomorrow morning, because I did talk to the homeowners tonight, and they're agreeable to that. They're agreeable to making some changes, because they know it's a problem.
and there's culverts just down the road that the water was going over the road.
We put in 2 new culverts. As you go through that one section where the cliff is coming down, we put in 2 new culverts.
No, I'm talking about up the road a little ways, up by Teachin's property.
Not sure which one that is.
Whippoorwill Farm, up a little bit further,
Towards the town or toward the
towards Stratton.
Towards Stratton.
It's on the other side of the landslide, if you keep going.
Keep going up. I'm not sure. I'd have to look
Yeah.
at that.
Well, you should take a ride, I mean, it'd be
Yeah.
worth it, because
Yeah, I
it's
think
coming
I'll
up
go
over the
there,
road.
We can take a look.
I was there last.
Sunday, I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, I was there a week and a half or so ago with some people who,
I mean-
and they said a real solution for this is in the $200,000 range. And that's how expensive the real solution is going to be. So we're looking.
You talking landslide, or you talking culverts?
Landslide that contributes to all these culvert problems. 'Cause
The culverts I'm talking about, there is no landslide, it's all flat land
oh, it's
there.
a different area?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. We were.
there's apple trees on the left.
He's
Do you have
talking
an
about
address
these.
by any chance?
Hmm?
Do you have an address?
No, look, Teachin's, look up Whippoorwill Farm, just up past where Valerie lives.
Past where Valerie lives.
Oh, so it's on the other side of the bridges.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you talking about the other
The
side
water
of
was
Forest Road?
swirling, but not making it through the
I bet you
culvert.
it's the west, it's that culvert we just got the grant for.
Are you talking about on the other side of Forester Road? Could be, because Forest Road splits off. and
Yeah.
then- Yes.
Yeah.
That's good news. Define good news, Paul. We have applied for and have been approved for a grant to really address that. The problem is, it's sitting on somebody's desk at FEMA, waiting for the last I don't know, shoot or drop. But we got the money, we put in the, last year, year before last, we
Right.
submitted the grant request, did all the engineering, did the hydraulic surveys, we got all that stuff done, submitted it to a granting authority up through the state, up to FEMA. It's been approved all along the way, 2 of all the, in the state apparently, we got 1 of them. And now we're just waiting for FEMA to give us a check. So that one I know about, that one's being addressed. Yeah, that's just the other
We've
side.
been repairing that 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah, Keith scrapes that a couple times a year anyway, yeah.
I have a question. Has all of this conversation that's been going on for the last 15 minutes going to be in the minutes?
But yes,
With what, all of it?
well, we'd like you to identify yourself before you start talking.
I know who they are.
You know who they are. Let's-
Because we have questions here that went on for quite a while and answers back and forth and obviously.
Yeah,
So we can expect,
we can expect.
We're not gonna request every word, not every
Don't
word.
forget I'm temporary.
Yeah.
well, I mean,
Just the,
We're gonna
I
get
think
the gist.
that's what your request is.
We'll see what we
So
can
you've got to hold the
You,
line.
you could go back with this, right?
do. The only problem with that is it's not official record, where the minutes have to be by law official record. But we kind of got the secretary sort of suddenly, so give me a little time to develop someone who can do that.
Well, I know you want Pam to do it.
If she could do it.
You've already said that.
Back to the original question
Could
on
you
the
make a
table.
motion that the camera, that the camera's the clerk?
Yeah, we can't do that, sadly. Does that answer your question about that? Yeah, I didn't realize which one you were talking about. Yeah, that one we actually are. This is good news for a change. We're on top of that.
That's a good thing.
Sometimes it happens. And WJR3, which is the cliff, we're on top of that.
Well, sorry, we're under it actually.
Well, we are sort of, but at least we're attending to it.
Yes.
And serendipitously, I had a conversation with the homeowners today on that very topic. Any more public concerns? Hearing none, let's move on to number 4. I'm going to make a motion. There's some.
You
You
can't
can't make
move.
a motion.
I'm going to entertain a motion to allocate some money, and I want to discuss it for a second. The listeners have gotten a little behind, the Powerball and some of the things that are going on. And I talked to Ralph Coleman this evening, and I've talked to the other listeners. And what I would entertain a motion to do is allocate sufficient funds for them to hire an appraiser or
An
an assessor to come in for 2 or 3 days to clear up the backlog. As you know, we've had some illnesses on there and some other things have happened. And so what we're trying to do is, we have no power over the listeners, except that we can allocate some money for them to use to fix their situations.
And what would that number be?
Of $1,300. It would be for 2 days of a field person and 1 day of the actual head of the company, actually typing the data into our database. The company we're proposing to use is the same company who we've selected for our reappraisal, townwide reappraisal.
While we're on that subject, you guys tabled that motion.
That's on the agenda.
That's on the
Okay,
agenda.
so that's gonna be addressed tonight.
We're moving into
Sorry.
that, yeah. So do I hear the motion?
I will move that.
Second.
I have a motion in the second. All in favor? Well, discussion. Is there any further discussion on this topic? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. I think that will help them. Since you asked, let's move number 7 up. It's the NEMC contract for appraisal, which is what you're asking about.
Yeah, did you guys get the answer to your question?
We did. I'll let you address that.
Would you like me to address that?
Please.
Okay. I called the gentleman who is the president of NEMC and told him our concern regarding the town paying for the bond, the performance bond. And he said, well, the reason he put that in there that way is because he's never been asked to do a performance bond before. So he felt that if a performance bond was to be asked for, then it should be the town's responsibility. And I went back and forth with him on that. He said he would check with his insurance company. He did check with his insurance company, and his insurance company was reluctant to issue a bond because his company is a service company as opposed to a contractor or the like, and they don't have assets. They've got a couple of computers, but they don't have any assets that could protect a bonding investment of that nature. So his insurance company would not issue him a bond. So not only was it an issue between the town paying for it or not, it was an issue of whether you could actually get a performance bond. I called, his name is Cy Bailey. He's a former lister who is now the state's liaison to, I don't know the exact title, but he's the liaison between the state and the listers in Windham County, most of Windham County. And he comes to talk to the listers all the time. He's basically their person who answers their questions. I gave him a call, asked him about performance bonding, and he said that no towns in Jamaica, or no towns in Vermont ask for performance bonds for reappraisals, which was kind of unusual because reappraisals are kind of a thing that a lot of towns have been burnt with. In fact, we feel we were burnt during our last appraisal. So I went over that with Cy at some length, asked him, how does a town protect itself from a reappraisal that starts, but maybe doesn't finish halfway through or whatever. And Cy said, basically what you want to make sure is that every time they appraise a property, that data gets entered into their database, and that database is physically on your computers, not on their computers. And that you don't pay them for anything that is not put on that database. So I talked to NEMC about that. And the database that would be used is called an SQL Server database, and that database will reside on our servers. And every time he submits a invoice to be paid, that he will show us that those particular properties have indeed been entered onto our server. So in other words, we're not paying for something we physically don't possess. Physically isn't the right word because it's a database, but we actually own it. So if for some reason somebody else has to come in and complete the process, then that data has already been entered. So that data doesn't have to go and be recollected. The second part of that is, all right, let's say that for some reason this company can't perform and we have the data on there, but we need to have a company who knows how to interpret that data, to read that data off that particular database. The particular software package that's being used is called Patriot Systems, and the head of Patriot Systems has worked with NEMC for many years, and what he did was he gave me Bill from NEMC asked the president of Patriot Properties to issue him a commitment. So let me read that to you so you can hear it.
Please.
So should the town find itself in a situation where due to physical incapacity, Bill Krajewski and or New England Municipal Consultants, LTD, is unable to complete this project, Patriot Properties will step in to assist and ensure the completion of the 2018 reappraisal. It says, please accept this letter as a statement of commitment from Patriot Properties to ensure the completion of the 2018 reappraisal contract between the New England Municipal Consultants and the town of Jamaica.
Can you provide that copy of that?
Yeah, I'll give that to her. I also have the copy of the contract with that paragraph regarding the bonding taken excluded, and then I've renumbered the rest of the contract. So you can pass that along and take a look at it if you like. So I think the combination of those two things gives me some reason to believe that we're pretty well protected, as well as any bonding that is normally used. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but
Well, as you know, I'm the one who put the brakes to it last time, and been following you as you work this thing through, and it took a lot of energy to get this stuff, but I'm satisfied that the town is protected. As best we're gonna get protected in these kinds of situations. I mean, bad things can happen, but it looks like this is the best we can get out of it.
I also asked aside regarding the other company that bid on the project. It was NEMC, if you recall. And he said NEMC doesn't ever bond any of their projects either, or I shouldn't say ever, but
Yeah.
does not normally bond.
Thank you for doing the research, checking that out. I know you spent a lot of time on the phone for this one. So I would then entertain another motion, because the motion was tabled before, that we accept. I'll let you make a motion.
I'll just move that we, as a board, sign the contract with NEMC to do the 2018 townwide reappraisal.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any discussion?
Do we have a second on that?
Hmm?
Do we
I
have a
don't think
second?
we
We do
got a
have a
second.
second.
I thought you said,
Oh, I thought second.
you said all
Then
four, and then you asked for discussion.
We didn't have a second.
I didn't have a second. Do we have a second?
I will that.
Okay.
I thought, Judy, I thought you said you did. No. you
No, I
for it.
voted.
That's it.
I'll second it though.
Wherever we are, we have a first, we have a second, a couple of
Candy
seconds.
second,
Oh,
okay.
we need
Give
a
us surplus of
third.
seconds, we'll save a second for later when we need it. All in favor, say aye. We said that. Done. Hearing none? Motion carries. So we will sign that contract and let those guys get started on it. Thank you. The next item is a discussion of the procedures for use of the town hall, specifically regarding applications, fees, and insurance. And that was something you were working on, Judy?
Yes. I'm going to pass out to each of you a copy of the agreement that is signed by a group that comes into using the town hall. And it has been revised, but I can tell you what the revision is because I made these for us to look at tonight. Basically, there needs to be some changes in order to protect the town. Just to begin the discussion, we need to make a decision relatively soon because our calendar for the summer is starting to fill up on different groups and people who want to use the town hall, and we need to get something going. The first most important one is liability. We have gotten notification from Vermont League of Towns and Cities concerning the fact that we really should be having the different groups that are using it come in with liability insurance, so that we as the town, if an accident occurs that is not our fault, we don't end up having to pay. And VLCT is saying that the individual groups, for example, a theater group or a concert or whatever, should carry their own, and they should give us a certificate of insurance covering their own activities. We, of course, are responsible for the building's safety in its own, though, and we have our own insurance on that particular part of our ownership, and that's with VLCT. So what I would like for us to look at is the liability insurance. Now, we have learned that VLCT will actually insure a group, but they make the contact with VLCT, asking for, if they're here for 5 days, it will cover them for 5 days. If they're here for 2 weeks, it will cover them for 2 weeks, and even 1 day. And that I'm sure the rates of that will be prorated according to the number of days. Someone brought up to me the fact that a group can come in, or even someone, a resident, that wants to use it for a private activity. For example, let's say we have a wedding and the reception is there, that the person can use their home owner's certificate as liability insurance. Well, I thought this was pretty fluky, so I've been doing some phone calls. I thought your homeowner's policy is when you're home and not someplace else. Well, I called the USAA, which happens to be my homeowner's insurance policy, and I asked the insurance, what do they call them?
Adjuster?
Yeah, the adjuster. If I were renting a room or renting out of town building or any kind of a hall, would my homeowner's insurance cover that? And he went and he looked up all sorts of things, and I think he discussed it with others. And he said, yes, under certain circumstances. However, it has to be looked at. In other words, if I have this wedding reception and I put up some decorations and the decorations fall on the head of one of the people that is in the room celebrating, that's my problem because I am the user of the room. However, if someone gets into our little elevator and the elevator breaks and causes some harm, that's our fault as the town. So each particular event has to be looked at as an individual case. So there's not any one rule saying, yes, you can always use your homeowner's policy if you are renting out something. So it becomes more complicated. But I do think that has not been a requirement, that liability insurance is used, and VLCT is saying, yes, you really need to be starting to use that. And I happened to be, I was calling over to Wardsboro Town Hall to ask questions because they also rent out their town hall, and they even have less idea of what's going on than we do. And she said, oh boy, we haven't even thought about these kinds of things. So I think as our town hall is getting used more, that's why we've got to be able to answer these questions. So I would like you to begin to really think about that, and as a part of this, the rental agreement, that we include that, and that before they go into whoever's using it, show us a certificate of insurance. And I don't know if you have any questions or any thoughts about that now.
Do we have, are we covered with?
Yes,
like
we are
an
covered.
Umbrella,
Yeah,
if anybody gets hurt in there?
yes, we already have that, the town, but it has to be because of our property. For example, if someone falls on the stairs walking up because the stairs are chipped, that's us.
But if they just fall, that's too bad for them?
Well, I mean, that could become a case, yes, but,
That's what I'm asking.
yeah, but that would have to be, that's where the adjuster would come in and make some kind of a decision about that.
In the paragraph under indemnification, it says that the renters incur and assumes all responsibility for all actions, losses, damages, claims, or liability that may occur as a result of the holding. So do we need to add something in there specific to them providing us?
Yes,
Okay.
with the
So that would be where we
certificate.
make adjustments.
Yes, actually, you take time when you have a chance, that's why I wanted to give you a copy, because I think this is a very thorough, written piece of material of protecting us and protecting the people who are using it. And one of the things that we're interested in is we want people to use the town hall.
Right.
And we want to make it as beneficial to them and to us at the same time. So that's the one thing that I recommend, that we do begin to require liability insurance certificate covering before they enter the facility.
So
How
this
much
was
though?
For a concert or anything?
For a concert, yes, for sure. And the question then comes up, which is a good question that you're beginning to trigger off, Andy, and that is, what about if it's just something like a private birthday party or something like that? I personally think that that still needs to be covered, that that's not us, and that it's a resident. I'm not sure I'm making myself clear around that.
I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
Get stimulated by that discussion. First of all, if I were a resident or if I were a group, especially a group, because a group doesn't necessarily have a homeowner's insurance as a resident, say I'm the Vaudeville Boys, and I want to come in and do a concert, do they give you an idea of what it would cost for that one day's worth of insurance?
No, I didn't ask specifically what the amount of money that it would cost, but I can certainly find
Yeah,
that out.
I'd like to know if it was $100 or is it $50 or is it
Yeah.
$500?
Right.
It kind of makes a difference. And the second question is, if I'm an individual and I want to rent it for a party for my own event, do all they have to do is present you with their homeowner's policy, or do they have to have something from their homeowner's insurance company that says they're covered for that liability for the day?
And that's why I'm asking you guys to think about that, how we do want it. I would imagine, just off the top of my head, I would think that they would have to show us that they have a homeowner's policy.
Well, yeah, but I guess it's not clear to me whether a homeowner's policy is actually going to cover this, or, because I don't, when you
Yeah.
talk to your insurance, I don't know whether they said it's automatically covered or.
No, it's not automatically covered.
So if it's not automatically covered, then they
Right.
might have to show us a certificate from their insurance company that says that they're gonna cover them for this one-day event.
That might be how we have to go.
You might call that a rider, I guess, maybe something like that?
Yeah, that could,
That would be between them and their insurance
Right,
company.
but it's not
They
just-
turned out to be simpler, just to do the
The VLC,
VLCT one.
you know, that would be nice and discreet, you know, the property, and it would be relative.
although the insurance company could say, yeah, you already paid for that, but I just need to give you a certificate to prove it.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Good point.
Those are
So
the
it looks like, it
questions.
sounds like it needs further research on that.
Yeah.
that
Wow.
we're gonna put
Yeah,
in here.
and that's why I'm bringing it up, because I want all of our heads to be thinking, not just mine,
Thank you,
around that.
this is good.
okay? One of the other things that you'll notice is under fee schedule, right at the front page, at the bottom, we discussed resident versus non-resident. And there's some feeling, and I was talking to Terry about this, that a taxpayer and a resident should actually have the fee of $25 a day for a public event, or $50 for a private event. You see those numbers there in that column? Right now, it's just resident and then non-resident. And we thought that since taxpayers are paying, taxes for the town hall, even though they're non-residents, they're second homeowners, basically.
So there could be a non-resident taxpayer.
Yeah, yes. But it's a taxpayer, where a group, let's say from Brattleboro, wants to have a concert up here, they're definitely non-resident.
That makes sense.
So I would like to include on that resident/taxpayer for those charges. We had thought about looking at increasing the amount of money, but I think good wisdom is that we leave it pretty much the same number, because we really do want to encourage people using the town hall.
Sure.
Especially since it's so lovely, and now that it has even water that's drinkable.
Water now.
So, that I would like to do. One of the things then would be the deposit. Let's see, where's that? You see it on the page there?
It's on the front page on the bottom.
Yeah, okay.
There's a couple places.
we have had problems already with cleaning. One group just left it, it's deplorably filthy. Everything around, we had to throw things out, etc. And we ended up having to do the cleaning, and $100 did not cover the cleaning. So I would like to boost that deposit for cleaning up to at least 150, maybe 200. And if they do their own cleaning, if they do their own cleaning, that they get that money back, okay? And it gets inspected before. So people can do their own cleaning, and most people have done. They've done a very good job of it. And the deposit of $200 for the use of it, you can see that can, I think, can possibly stay the same. And then again, the $200 goes towards the daily fee. Now, I also want to recommend that we end up charging for people who want to use the facility for rehearsal, and then we've had it where they don't pay for the rehearsal time. They're still using the building. But I think that needs to be included within, that when they're in there, and that no other group is in there. So, and that we do get at least 200, if not more. We've actually been stuck on payment. So we really have to follow through on that. So these are the things that I would like us to be thinking about, and what I'll do is, if you can talk to me about it and give me your ideas, and then I'll come up with some recommendations of what you're thinking, and then come back and present it to the board, okay? Dave Mink, who is the one who's contacted me, he's the chair of the new Art Council. And one of the things we have to discuss with him is the role of the Art Council, because they're going out and bringing in people to use the town hall, which is really great. Is he going to be, the Art Council, are they going to be considered agents? And if so, are they going to be the ones to collect the money, the deposits, etc., or are we going to do that in the town? And again, so think about that, okay? Exactly what will be the relationship between the Art Council and the town.
Did he have any thoughts on that?
No, he did not have any thoughts on that.
I've got a thought on that. When Judy and I talked about this earlier together. Let's make believe that I'm the Arts Council and I want to book a author to come in and give a speech. And I contact an author, he's New York City, really doesn't care much about Jamaica other than the fact that he's an author. And to me it seemed like the council would be responsible for the damages, the council would be responsible for all the cleaning and the like, as opposed to the author, because the author is really not the one that's renting the hall, it's really the Arts Council. So that's why I think Judy likes this idea of this agent concept. And so my thinking is that the Arts Council might keep on deposit with us the $200 that we never give back to them, but they just keep it there for all of their events. And then if for some reason it needs cleaning or the like, we would then tell them that you now owe us another $100 for that deposit before you can do another event. That's what my thinking was.
Is the Arts Council going to be
A nonprofit, I've heard.
well, I think a fiduciary arm of the town?
No,
Then how would they then handle the funds?
Well, they're presumably going to make a little bit of a profit on their
Right.
events.
You know,
So some of that profit would then be put on deposit.
then they should be, if they're making a profit, then they should be.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want to be an arm of the town. And I know that David said that they've been in touch with some insurance companies, et cetera, as a nonprofit organization, so.
I mean, I can't see them giving us a $200 check every time they want to do an event, and us giving the $200 back to them.
Right.
So my thinking is to keep it on deposit. Yeah,
And then they can collect whatever deposit they want. from
they
their
need
people.
from their people.
And then the nitty-gritty is who keeps the calendar, because that can become a real issue of the art council wanting to put it on, and there's always something else, you know. So there has to be coordination, obviously, between the town and the council. Let's see, I think I've covered pretty much what I wanted to talk about on that. So look this over, read the back, see what you think, and you know the idea about the liability. That's what I want you to look at, whether you think the cost of each day needs to be increased or left the same. What Lou is saying in terms of the art council leaving a deposit and payment. How do we get payment so that we're not stuck? Okay? Any other questions or thoughts?
No, listen, that's a lot of work you've done, thank you very much. Yeah, that's a good point, 'cause now that we've got water, thanks to you, we can now start using it.
Yeah,
Pay for the well.
and it's a gorgeous building.
Yeah.
And
Oh, it clearly
it's,
should be.
it's a wonderful venue for having all sorts of activities, so I hope that people
We have
use
to
it.
do it.
Excellent, yep. Did you have a question on this?
What's that?
No.
Do you think that's a pretty good deal, $25 a day for a
Yeah.
hall like that?
Yeah. I think it is.
I think that when she's talking about, though, I hear that, I mean, it will, in theory,
No, I-
encourage business to the
Well, I'm
town.
not saying that it's too much
Oh,
at all.
okay,
You
no,
know,
what I'm
not-
saying is,
maybe not enough.
well,
I didn't say that either.
But
was wondering what
I see the
thought.
$25 a day, plus I see the businesses in the community
Yeah.
liking the traffic.
Judy, there's two things I'd like to bring to your attention. Number one is you probably ought to be thinking about what the amount of liability is you want people to bring to the table and for their coverage. And second, who's gonna hang on to that paperwork? Because lawsuits don't necessarily happen at the time things happen.
Oh, that's
So
good.
you got a 7-year, 10-year window, sometimes that paperwork's gonna need to be kept on insurance information.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's the point.
Yeah. Excellent. Any other questions, comments, suggestions? Those are good. All right, let's move on to number 8. We are going to prepare, or have prepared, an RFP for cemetery mowing. We're going to request, get some bids on having the cemetery mowing accomplished. And the other thing that's under that same idea, I believe we ought to think about contracting with Kramer and Associates to get a survey of the town-owned cemeteries, because there's been some question about some of the plots. I have no idea what that sort of thing would cost, but I think it's something we ought to look into. Lexi, you had some thoughts on that?
I think we should get in touch with Bill Kramer, and he can give us a kind of a ballpark figure of what it's gonna cost for each,
Okay.
for all of them, and see if they wanna do it. I know we talked about it several years ago, but,
We should explore the costs.
it's, things happen in between there, with his associate, so that was kind of put on hold. But I
Sure.
know they wanted to do it back 3 years ago, so I think they probably would.
This may be the time to do it.
So, do you want me to get in touch with them?
Would you please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, Paul, isn't the big cemetery down here handled separately from the other?
That's a private cemetery.
So, is that gonna be included?
No.
No, we're talking about the
Only town.
RFPs for the town properties.
To answer your question, we were thinking of trying to combine both bids, but since we've got private and public, it's a mix, it didn't quite work. But what we probably will do is, the Cemetery Association actually met a week ago. And what we'll probably do is whoever applies for these bids, we'll probably also let them know about that. And in the meantime, the Cemetery Association will put out a similar kind of RFP.
But it has to be because of the public-private
Right,
separation, it has to be that.
right. Well, that's what I was wondering, if you're sending RFPs for everything or separate.
Well, just for the municipal pieces, otherwise we gave them the business of sending out RFPs for private businesses. That doesn't work out. Any other questions from the audience? Or come back. We'll start making pizza or something. I'm glad to see people here.
We're not done yet.
Well, in case somebody leaves before.
Oh, okay.
Lou, do you have anything you'd like to bring?
Well, we haven't got item number 9
Number
yet.
9.
That's why I was saying that.
Any other business that comes before the board?
No,
That's
set dates,
Number 9.
you're looking at your old agenda. The set date
I
for
got the
revoke
old
the
one.
bond issue.
Oh, I'm working from now. I have so many copies I've given around. You're right.
You're right.
Well, look at that. Number 9.
I've done some checking on that if you'd like me to.
I would like, yeah, why don't you bring that up, because that is something that needs to be looked at. And this is the, set the date to re-vote on the bond issue.
I talked to our attorney, Paul Giuliani. First of all, since our last meeting, we verified that there are certainly enough signatures. Paul said that the wording of the petition was fine.
Clarify, let's make sure you understand, this is not this Paul, but Paul the attorney.
Paul Giuliani, correct. I asked him, what would the wording of this ballot be? And he looked at the wording of the petition and said basically it would be the same ballot that we had on March 1st. All the warnings would be very similar. Once we pick the date, then he will prepare the paperwork for us like he did the last time. He said that we need 30 days to, be able to warn this. So the earliest, assuming that we could get a warning out tomorrow, the earliest we could do this would be May 12th. By statute, we have to do it within 60 days of when the petition was filed. I don't remember the exact date, probably like the
31st?
no, I think it was when it was actually filed as opposed to the
It was
deadline.
either the 30th or 31st.
I think it was on the 29th.
29th.
But so anyways, we have until May 29th, or actually 60 days would be probably May 28th. So if our thoughts are to have an election on a Tuesday, which is the traditional date for a day of the week of an election, the recommendations that I would have would be either the 17th, May.
17th is Tuesday.
17th of May. No, when the 17th, okay, yeah, right.
May 17th is Tuesday.
17th will be a Tuesday, or the 24th, because the following 31st is too far beyond the deadline. So it would be one of those 2 dates I would recommend.
What time of day would that be?
Has to be 10
It would
to
be
7.
a Australian ballot, so it would be whatever we open the polls in the morning,
10
10
to
to
7.
Right.
10 to 7.
Now, in order to do the 17th, we need to have the meeting, the town meeting. Tell me the numbers, 5 days, right, between 10 and 5 days?
No less than 10 days before,
No more than 10.
no greater than 10 days before, no
No
less than 5.
So the town meeting could therefore be on the 10th.
Or the Thursday, we were talking about a Thursday.
Thursday the 12th?
Actually, I'm not available that Thursday the 12th, I have a Women's Solid Waste meeting.
So we should, if we do it on the 10th,
That would probably be legal by statute.
that would put us in the 7 days, so we're within that 10 to 5 day range. So therefore, if we have the vote on the 17th, the town meeting on the 10th.
The information meeting.
Yes, the informational town
Information
meeting on the 10th. And I'm gonna recommend that be in the evening to make sure people who have real jobs can get to it.
Yeah.
So, do we have we need to vote to set the date?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion for the 17th of May for the vote.
I move that we set the date for the election on the 17th of May with the normal Australian ballot concept, and that we make Tuesday, May 10th, the informational meeting at 6:30.
That works for me.
Sure. 6:30?
That's okay to have both in one motion?
Sure.
Okay,
I think so.
sounds fine to me.
Yeah, and I'll make sure that those dates work with the lawyer. If for some reason that doesn't work, I'll work around that, but,
Do I hear a second for discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Any opposed, no. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Motion passes. We will have the re-vote on May the 17th. And we'll have the town meeting in the town hall at, you said 6 o'clock or 6:30?
Informational.
Wait a minute.
Informational.
Information.
meeting.
In the town hall,
In the town hall at
6:30.
6:30.
Where's the vote going to be?
Here.
Here.
Yeah. And we'll set up, this is just our, like, usual ballots in this room.
Right.
And the voting out, and the hours will be
10 to 7.
10 to 7, 10 o'clock to 1900. Thank you for correcting my minute. I mean, I ran all over the place last Saturday posting the new time, and then I didn't keep one for my son.
Just.
Yeah, now it's this every 10, which is any other business that comes before the board. Then we flip to the center board. Do you have any other business, sir?
yes, I actually do. As you know, you've asked me on your behalf to prepare a grant application for the Better Back Roads grant and the Structures grant and a Class 2 road grant. And I think we need to make a motion that you allow me to present that grant on behalf of the select board. So I don't know if you want to make 3 motions, one for each one of those grants.
Are they specific to a particular project or just
Well,
generic?
they're all actually related to our proposal to, well, not the Structures grant, where every town participates in what's called a Class 2 road grant program. And over the course of 10 years, every town should get the equivalent number of dollars based on the number of miles, and V-Trans tries to keep track of that. And if you recall, about 5 or 6 years ago, we got a grant to do the mile of highway here plus a mile of Pikes Falls Road plus the stormwater project. And that was our last Class 2 road grant. And now we've percolated back up to the top of the list. So we're eligible for another Class 2 road grant. And we're looking at doing some paving work on the far end of Pikes Falls Road from the Stratton Town Line probably to around Dalewood. I want to go into that in a little bit more detail afterwards, but that would be the Class 2 road grant that we're looking for. In anticipation of that, there's some ditch work that needs to be done, and Act 64 has created a little bit more requirements to do this kind of ditching as part of a road project. And we're going to apply to Better Back Roads for about $20,000. We didn't get it last year. If you recall, I applied for it last year, we didn't get it. We're going to try to apply for it again this year. There's more money out there, so this year than there was. Because of Act 64, the legislature has given more money to this particular kinds of projects. So we've got a chance of getting $20,000 to help us with the ditching of that project. So I need to apply for that grant. And the third grant is a Structures grant. Structures are culverts and bridges, and we are not actually at the top of the Structures grant list. We may be next year, but probably the year after. The problem is we have a more emergency kind of need. If you look at the short little bridge that goes over the river, the little brook, I guess it's called the Felton Brook, on the way to the highway garage. And we looked at that one. It's a very short bridge, so it doesn't get looked at by the state every 2 years in their bridge program. And we looked at it and it's crumbling. It's got some pretty serious thing. So we're hoping that we might be able to get an emergency grant, even though we're not eligible for a Structures grant. We're going to ask for it, see if we can get an emergency grant.
And if I remember correctly, that particular grant we also have done some work for because we did it once before when it turned out.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that one, yeah, last year we did it as well.
Yeah, so we've got some hydraulics and some other stuff.
Last year there was more emergencies, more serious emergencies than our emergency. So, but anyways, those are the 3 grants I'm going to be applying for at the end of the week. You probably ought to authorize that as part of the board.
Are these grants anything the town taxpayers have to match?
There's always a match, yes. The way the Class 2 road grant works, and in fact, the structures grant, is the state caps their share at $175,000. So up to a $200,000 or so project, we pay 20%, the state pays 80%. Everything over 200,000 is totally on our nickel. And that's what I'm gonna get to the next thing.
So what are the amounts of these grants that you're referring to?
Both of them will be in the $200,000 range.
I thought you said there were three.
The third one is the $20,000, I mentioned that earlier. The Better Back Roads grant is for $20,000. But the two big ones from the state are 200,000 plus projects. So we're looking for a $175,000 grant.
So we'd be picking up, taxpayers would be picking up that bill.
The taxpayers will pick up that bill, or they'll continue to spend lots and lots of money trying to maintain deteriorating equipment and deteriorating roads. So it's an investment in the long term.
Yeah, and also, we keep reserve funds. It wouldn't come out of the general fund, it would come out of our reserve funds. Every year in the highway department, we put in $75,000 to our reserve fund. I talked to Terry this morning, and she said there's $391,000 in our highway reserve fund at the moment. So from the standpoint of the match, we've got money to cover that match. Interesting, I talked to her about, we've been borrowing against the reserve funds to pay for post-Irene. And we have a reserve fund called Flood Damage Fund. I think that's about $150,000 or so. And I asked her about how that flood damage fund would be used. And if you recall, the state capped the most that any one town would have to pay for post-Irene cleanup was 3%. So which is, I think, $70,000 in our case. So that $70,000 would come out of the flood damage fund. And then any dollars that we had to spend, if you recall, if we spent money to fix a project that wasn't covered by the FEMA grant, then we had to pay for that ourselves. So anything that had to be paid for out of our own pocket would have probably also come out of that flood damage fund. So what that means is the $391,000 we would probably not have to touch to pay for post-Irene problems. So I talked a little bit about that with Terry today too. Now, let's do these three motions, and then I want to fill you in on another issue that we want to talk about.
Okay, just really quickly, just give you an idea of the kind of machinations you have to jump through to get the money, to get these things done. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of work, time, and energy that you put into these things. As have you. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we've been doing. Do we need to be independently, or can we vote on all three of them?
I would do each one independently.
Make your motions.
Okay, I would make a motion that we authorize the road commissioner to apply for a Class 2 road grant from the state of Vermont.
I'll second it.
Second, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Discussions?
You have discussion before the vote.
I used to think so, and then somebody corrected me
I
and
don't
said you
think
have to
so.
have the vote, then the discussion.
No.
It doesn't make sense.
Fine,
It
Robert.
doesn't make
I
sense.
know,
After the second.
After the second,
Yeah,
then
the
discussion.
The second is, well, that's what I get for not reading Robert myself. Having said that, pass the second one.
I move that we authorize the road commissioner to apply for a construction grant for, I forget the number of the bridge on Castle Hill Road.
I don't remember either, but that's a good name for it.
That's the name of it. I forget the number of the bridge.
Castle.
The bridge on Castle Hill Road.
Sure.
I'll second that.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? I'm worried. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Number 3, please.
I move that we authorize the road commissioner to apply for a Better Back Roads grant for $20,000 for a ditching project on Pikes Falls Road.
I'll second it.
Second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do I hear any no? Hearing none, that passes as well. You have another item.
Yeah, as you recall, last year, we authorized money to get some engineering work done in preparation for this Class 2 road grant, so for this ditching project. And we asked, what's the name of the company? Holden Engineering to prepare a form for us, which would show us what needs to be done along Pikes Falls Road. After pushing on them for a year to get it done, they finally got it to me today, or yesterday, Thursday. And it turned out that they're recommending that we do a particular, it's what it is. If you think about your house and you have a foundation, you have what's called a French drain. I think you probably know about what this is. You have a French drain which takes water that would otherwise hit the foundation. It drops it down and exhausts through a pipe. A similar kind of thing happens with roads. Evidently, if you have a road that's paved road, there's gravel underneath it. But if water gets underneath that pavement into that gravel, it saturates the gravel underneath it, and what happens is it cracks. And if you look at Pikes Falls Road, there are a number of places where there's some very severe cracking. So the problem is that we need to put this French drain in, and he estimated about 7,000 feet of French drain.
I'm sorry, 7,000?
7,000 feet, because the whole project is about 6,600 feet, but a lot of that drain has to be on both sides of the road. So, the estimate on just to purchase and install the pipe is about 100 and I'll tell you what the number is. 129,000. So the question, and I asked him, I said, if we don't put this French drain in, are we throwing good money after bad by paving that 1.25 mile stretch? And basically he said, yeah. He said, you can probably figure that what's happened before is going to happen again. I guess the question is if we do indeed do this paving project, we probably need to think about putting this French drain, if you will, an under drain. We might think about doing that, so we need to think about whether we want to do that for that 1.25 mile stretch of Pikes Falls Road. What's happened after that, there's another 0.5 mile beyond. It would actually go up to that culvert we just put in, the old twin culverts. We go up to that twin culverts. Beyond the twin culverts, a lot of that has been redone as part of the Irene work. So a lot of that isn't in very bad shape. So anyways, I wanted to bring that to your attention. I don't think we have to vote on it tonight, but I think we need to think about
Start thinking about it.
I have a question. It feels to me like we're spending quite a bit of money. And I understand we need these things. However, with the school issue and now our garage and all the different roads, and we have costs that come with that because we do have to pay our portion. Do we have money available for these things? Because we really have to watch out for what our taxpayers are going to be paying with these additional things, particularly the bond that I'm hoping, will go through eventually.
Yeah, that's certainly a good question. What I mentioned earlier, the reserve fund,
Is that where most of the
that's where
money
this
will come?
all will come from.
Oh, it will all come
Right,
from.
it will all come.
But then we don't have much in the reserve.
Well, by the time, right, we have to keep replenishing. I said we have 391,000. We also have $75,000 in this budget. We haven't moved to the reserve account yet. So in our general fund, assuming that we don't spend that money for other things this year, we have 75,000 allocated to add to that reserve, which we usually do on our last meeting of the year. So we keep adding 75,000 a year to it. So, and the good news is that most of our other paved roads are in pretty good shape. We did Water Street. Water Street's in very good shape. We may need to want to address a little bit of South Hill Road, because there was some discussion that we want to go up a little bit higher with the paving. We went up, for the project we did 5 years ago, we went up about 500 feet on the paving. We redid that. We may want to add to that and go up to where we actually ended the paving, where our paving ends. So we have a few other little paving projects to do, but this is the big one that I think that we need to hit. But I think we got money for that. As I said before, a couple of meetings ago, we are working on a capital improvements project or a plan to start thinking about replacing some other culverts in town that are big culverts that are undersized. They washed out in Irene, and we put them back. But the hydrology studies show that those culverts really ought to be bigger. So we do have some of those to think about. We'll keep, every 5 or 6 years, we'll keep applying for a structures grant. There are hazard mitigation grants out there, but we gotta make sure that we think about those big culverts in the next 10 or 20 years.
So that's really my concern, is just we need to keep a handle on that, of how much we are spending because of the tax money. Because we're not a wealthy town as such.
But we have been good about putting aside money for these
Yeah, I know
projects,
that.
which
And
is very good.
And equipment too, we've been really
Right.
good about.
Right. We've done a good job of
Yeah.
keeping our reserves up.
Keeping it on a rotation,
Yeah.
which works.
Is that number you read off, is that the total number for the ditching, or is that just the pipe? number?
Actually, that's the piping. There is, he did put in there 18,000 for the ditching, but that would be done by our road crew, so it wouldn't be money we'd be paying in addition to our normal 40 hours a week we pay the road crew. The ditching itself would be done by the road crew.
But would that not also count as in-kind services towards our 20%?
Correct. Well, in this particular case, we're not looking for a grant for this,
Oh,
for this 100.
yeah, okay, got it. But in other cases, it would work.
Right.
I would like to speak, please. Since we're on the discussion of roads, I have lived on Coal Pond Road for over 25 years. And I can recall back in the day, we actually had ditches on Coal Pond Road. Over the course of many years, with the maintenance of the road, which is minimal, the gravel that's added every year to the mud eventually ends up being graded into our ditches. And I would like to invite every single one of you to take a ride 2 miles in on Coal Pond Road and on Pratt Birch Road, and be aware of the work that has been done and not been done. We have no ditches on our road. We have had 2 to 3 culverts replaced in the last 4 years. None of them have been replaced correctly. They are coming up out of the road, they're above the ditching runoff. One of them has actually even been broken off by a plow because it's not placed correctly. So, 2 questions. One would be, when is the last time any of our road crew has been to a grading school brush up?
That would have to be researched, I don't have that.
Yeah, I don't think
Before
it's
you
that.
could you say your name for the?
Lori Polhemus.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
And if that is ever part of training or overview or anything, because that road is not graded the way it used to be 25 years ago. There used to actually be a hump
Crap.
because a crown. You could barely walk on it because it was so sideways. Everything drained. We had ditches. That does not exist
Well, I know
anymore.
the Hager's been having a lot of water problem coming.
Well, I'm sure it's not just Coal Pond and
Well, no, the Hager's,
the Hagers.
yeah, they're at the end almost at
Yes.
your road.
But this has been going on for far too long, and I don't feel that our road crew is overseen in the quality of the work that they do or in the effort that is put into the roads.
Could you,
I'll check that out.
could you get me the addresses of those culverts that you have a problem with? If you send me an email with that, I'll make sure Keith gets it.
Keith knows exactly
If you send it to
every
me,
culvert
If
on
you
Full
could-
Pond.
If you could give it to me, then I can follow up on it. That would help
Actually,
me.
I'll follow up on that.
Yeah, I was
That's
wondering,
the road
who's the
commissioner.
road commissioner?
Oh,
You used to be the road commissioner.
That's right. You're
But I will-
In any case, let's get the specifics, please.
And I'm not just talking about culverts, the ditches all need to be dug out.
Well, there's some ditching there, I know, because I just spent, we spent 3 hours in one of them, on the side of the road in an ambulance couple.
Yeah.
So, we do know that at least one ditch is still there, because I was there.
Actually, the ditch
But-
that you were in
Yeah,
does not do what it used to do.
well, thankfully, it didn't kill us, that was good. But if we could get the specifics, rather than going and saying, we got this complaint about a piece of road, we can give you some specific addresses.
Well, I can give you specific numbers, but you can also drive down there
Yeah, well, I'll
and
check it out
make
with you.
notations. They're supposed to be, from what I understand, checking the roads every morning.
Exactly, that's why I want you to give me some specifics in writing, so we can follow up on it. If you can send them to either me, at the chair, or to the road commissioner, either one, that would help a lot, because then we'll have something
Well,
hard, concrete.
I think this is a pretty ridiculous conversation we're having right here.
I'm sorry?
I think this is a ridiculous conversation we're having right here with me having to give you particular numbers of where these culverts are.
I'm sorry you think it's ridiculous that we want specifics about.
These gentlemen on our road crew are on our road every day,
You're asking us to.
supposedly.
But
You're asking us to
you're asking
respond to
me,
it.
and I don't know what, you're asking me to look at that.
Well,
and I
then
don't know.
maybe you should ride down there with them.
I will, but I need to.
Well, I think that would be terrific.
As Paul said, I need to know what culverts,
Well, you can see them, they're out of the ground.
They're out of the ground.
I sold a property out
I don't think
there.
it hurts to give that a little bit more detail, that's.
It would help us a lot. It would
Do
certainly.
you have a
help
color
us.
map so you can write the numbers down?
What's that?
Do you have a culvert map? so you
I
can-
have them on my computer, I've got every culvert in town with a ID.
But we don't know the numbers.
I can show them.
If you give us a approximate address, we
You
can
should
show
know where they
I'll
are.
go right in and you can show me.
But in the discussion of all of this upcoming work, which I think is terrific, that we want to improve our roads, there is an awful lot of stuff that isn't getting done in the meantime. And frankly, I'm tired of my tax dollars not being put to work.
It's in addition to that, I mean, there's also, my name's Dan Cummins, I just spent $300 this past week repairing my rear suspension. And I crawl across that road. That's not the Prius either.
No, that's the
We don't
SUV.
even take that out.
That's the
Yeah, it's an
SUV.
SUV, yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm
I was down Cold Pond Road a couple weeks ago, and I haven't been down there last week, but I know that road hasn't dried out yet. They can't run the grader yet on that road, it's too,
And I'm not asking for the grader.
Pull out the soup.
I mean, I actually dread seeing the grader because all it means is the ditches are getting filled in even more. And I would like someone on this board or the road commissioner to start looking into training and schooling of someone on that crew to learn how to drive a grader. And that's coming from a woman.
I wrote that down, that's something I'll look into, and I'm sure you and I can talk about it. Yeah, we heard that. We can look into it. Are there any other items? Anything else that you want to bring up? Okay. Lou, you still on the floor?
Well, the only other thing I wanted to talk about, mostly to talk to Judy about, is because, as you know, last week there was an article in the paper about recycling and the 3 through 7s, and I want to bring the board up to date on what that's all about. I don't know if you look at your recycling containers and you turn them over, or your plastic, and you turn them over, there's a recycling symbol, and inside of it there's a number. And numbers 1 and number 2 are very valuable plastic products. The numbers 3 through 7, one of those is 5, I think, or 6, which is styrofoam. We don't count styrofoam. But other than that, the value of those commodities are very, very little. They're it requires, down at the district, it requires one person to pick those items out of the trash. Well, the commodities that we talked about are plastic commodities, and as you know, they're based on oil prices. And with the price of oil being very down, the cost of in the China market being very poor, the cost of the value of those commodities has gone way down, to the point where the district is losing money. We're already $85,000 in the red this year. And back in February, we had a meeting to discuss how we're going to improve our situation. And one of the things is that we're going to ask the people not to throw 3 through 7s in anymore. 3 through 7s are right now, they're being thrown away. We're paying $100 a ton to throw those commodities away. So instead of the district throwing them away, the idea is to ask the people not to put them into the mix. There's a very negative to that, and the negative to that is that right now people say plastic, throw it in the recycling. Now they're going to have to look and say, oh, 1 or 2, throw it, 3 through 7 up, don't throw it. So we're asking people to be a little bit more conscientious. However, there has been some fallout from this article last week. So the district is, at their meeting on Thursday night, is going to be discussing this issue. So at the moment, we don't want anybody, in fact, Pam had already received a letter from the district and was going to put it on the website. I asked her not to do that because I want to see what the results of this meeting are on Thursday before we decide whether we're going to ask people to not throw 3 through 7. So I'll fill you in at the next board meeting with the results of that meeting.
Yeah, because it's actually going back to the old way. It used to be 1 and 2, and then it got increased to about 3 years ago, something like that, and so forth. But it was, the article was very interesting. Actually, yesterday on NPR, there was someone from the New York Times who wrote a letter, or wrote an article on the opinion section, questioning, which is really throws another whoop into the whole thing, the efficacy of recycling. And I thought, oh boy, here we go again. So I don't know if you've read that in the New York Times. I think it might have been in yesterday's paper, so you might want to look at that. But yeah, I had asked you, are we going to go ahead and do that? So as what you're telling us is not to do anything
Not
yet.
to do it yet.
Right.
Let's wait until the result of this Thursday meeting is, and then we'll let you know. Because as I said, the fallout's been pretty significant.
This is the letter that I was expecting. So,
Thank you. Is that all for you?
That's all for me.
Judy?
well, basically, what he brought up is what I was going to bring up, in that we don't know where we stand with it, but we just have to wait and see. And basically, it's because I gather it's 3 through 7 products are made with oil. The base of the plastic is oil, and with the prices going down, that becomes the issue. Is that
That's part of it, yeah. 3 through 7s were never a valuable product.
Yeah, you can't, I guess, melt it to have it go back because oil prices are so low, so it's an interesting
Dilemma.
Good luck.
You try to do the right
One
thing
hand
environmentally, you
takes-
just can't afford to do it.
Right.
Thank you very much. Do you have anything for us, Andy?
Oh, as your health officer, I have to do a rental inspection, and I've had to make real sure that I didn't get tangled up in a sort of a legal issue between the tenant and the landlord. And I need to ask the clerk or ask for some help if the property might be part in Wyndham and part in Jamaica. I have to find out about that before I go and visit this young lady, and it seems like it could get a little complicated. So, I guess I'm asking, after the meeting, I'll ask how I would find out who this fellow that we all know who is the owner and has been involved in the town hall. If it's in Jamaica or Wyndham, if I said Wyndham or both. And then,
You
so,
can, I can show you the Lister card, and you can see whether he's got a home, if he has property in both towns, the question is, where is his home?
right,
So we'd have to look, we can look at the Lister card and see if, the home is in Jamaica or not.
okay. That's it for me.
Alexa,
Nothing?
I only have one other thing, real quickly. I got my monthly report from the fire department. The call volume for March is 11 calls so far. For March, 2 of them were classified as building fires. To date, we have had 48 calls. At this pace, the department's call volume will have increased by 35% over the previous year. The fire chief says the training is good, equipment issues continue to plague, some work on the station is needed, and that's the report from Dana West, who's our fire chief. I would once again make a plea to everybody to make sure that their numerals for their address are visible, large print, visible at night. The road, please. Are there any other items to come before the board tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
I hear a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Hear a second. Any discussion? Hearing none at 8:50. I can't read that because of the glare. Let's call it 8:52. Meeting is adjourned.
Judy, there's some extra ones.